The Jerusalem Post, May 19, 2013. The Sunday Times reports reconnaissance satellites reveal preparations made by the Syrian army to deploy surface-to-surface Tishreen missiles ready to fire at Israel should Jerusalem conduct another airstrike on the Assad regime. Syria has surface-to-surface Tishreen missiles aimed at Tel Aviv and is ready to use them should Israel to decide to conduct a strike on Damascus, British newspaper The Sunday Times reported on Sunday. The paper reports that reconnaissance satellites have revealed preparations made by the Syrian army to deploy the missiles that can each carry half a ton payload. The paper quotes Israeli missile expert Uzi Rubin as saying Syria has a lot of Tishreen missiles at its disposal, and should they fire them at Israel, they could potentially paralyze all commercial flights coming in and out of the country. The Russian Mediterranean fleet returns. The first return of the Russian Pacific Navy for Mediterranean deployment since 1992. The recent Israeli attacks on Syria, particularly the use of a nuclear bunker buster, gave the Russians a gift from heaven, opening the door to make a defensive deployment to protect their longtime ally in Syria. The Russians are back in the Mediterranean to stay, and this might be a good lesson to the folly of the Western slow-motion aggression policy in the region, which has put a match to the whole place. Russian Navy Commander Admiral Viktor Cherkov has announced that a permanent staff was being set up, and the present force might eventually include their nuclear submarines. 21st of May 2013. Syria has reported that they fired on an Israeli patrol. Syria and Israel crossed verbal words Tuesday, May 21st, after an overnight exchange of fire on the Golan. The Israeli Defense Force Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, warned that Assad would pay the price for bringing terror to the Golan, after Damascus for the first time claimed responsibility for the gunfire on an Israeli Golan patrol on Monday. Syria also threatened to strike back for Israel reprisals. Bashar Assad is signaling his readiness for a war of attrition, a wearing down to weaken or destroy, a war of attrition on Israel from the Golan, which our sources predicted was in the works. Syria and Hezbollah, flushed with the success of breaking the rebel hold on the strategic town of Qusair, Sunday, May 19, are making no secret of their plans for the great confrontation, the military confrontation with Israel after they win the Syrian civil war. Israel military leaders are taking with the utmost seriousness the words of Ibrahim al-Amin, editor of the Hezbollah organ Al-Akbar, and a close buddy of Syrian President Bashar Assad, who wrote Monday, "The rope is taut. It is taut to the limit. Anyone at either end, Israel at one end, Syria and Hezbollah at the other, need only flex a finger and it will break, and the great confrontation will take place. This is neither a threat nor an exaggeration or interpretation. This is the situation of the enemy's northern front. Now means today. It means this hour," Al-Amin wrote. The US has chided Russia for what it calls an unfortunate decision to send missiles to the Syrian government. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey, said that the shipment will embolden the regime and prolong the suffering that has killed 80,000. The sophisticated anti-ship missiles could be used to counter any future foreign military intervention, US officials told the New York Times. "We do not know what will happen in Syria, but we do know that Assad now has the Russian fleet permanently in the Mediterranean off the Syrian coast. These Russian warships have huge capability. They have highly sophisticated missile systems on board that can target locations anywhere in the Middle East. Additionally, what will happen when Syria starts moving Russian arms to Hezbollah in Lebanon? Will Israel attack these shipments? And if they do, what will Russia do? Damascus, a ruinous heap. In the last days, the Bible tells us of a horrible series of events that will take place in the lands of Israel and Syria. One of these events is the disappearance of Damascus as one of the premier cities in the world. The oldest continuously inhabited city on the planet, Damascus has witnessed at least 5,000 years of human history, and some historians believe the city actually dates back to the 7th millennium BC. In fact, Paul was on the road to Damascus when Christ first appeared to him, an event that transformed not only his life, but the course of human history. In Isaiah 17 verse 1 we read, "Behold, Damascus will cease from being a city, and it will be a ruinous heap." This is one of the prophecies in the Bible that is not yet being fulfilled. And the final question we have to ask, will Israel be responsible for destroying Damascus? And will this be the event that turns the world against Israel? Because once again in Revelations we read that the entire world will be turned against Israel. In Revelations 9 verse 16, "And the number of the army of horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them." And this is the number that will surround Jerusalem in the last days. And that number is 200 million strong army.